You're an expensive burden for this company, Lance. My name is Lance Rodriguez. I'm 47 years old and I've been leading the sales team at Morrison Industries for 16 years. Built relationships with every major client from scratch, worked weekends, missed family dinners, made Morrison Industries a household name in Denver's manufacturing sector. Noah Henderson, my boss, said those words while leaning back in his leather chair. The smirk on his face told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about performance. This wasn't about results. This was about numbers on a spreadsheet. 3 interns can do your job, he added, adjusting his tie like he'd just solved world hunger. I sat there looking at the man who'd been riding my coattails for the past 3 years. Noah had joined Morrison as operations director when the previous director retired. Walked in with his MBA and fancy theories about efficiency. Started questioning everything the moment he got comfortable. The irony wasn't lost on me. While he talked about cutting costs, I was the one bringing in 60% of our revenue. My client relationships were the backbone of this company. But Noah saw dollar signs where I saw handshakes and trust built over decades. I understand, I said quietly. Good. Security will escort you out. Your access cards are already deactivated. I nodded and stood up. Didn't slam the door, didn't raise my voice. Just walked to my office and packed my personal items into a cardboard box. The photo of my wife and kids. My coffee mug from the Construction Equipment Expo in Chicago. The paperweight my daughter made in 3rd grade. My team watched from their cubicles as security walked me to the elevator. Jennifer, my assistant, had tears in her eyes. She'd been with me for 8 years. Knew every client's birthday, their kids' names, their favorite restaurants. We'd built something real here. As the elevator descended, I thought about the conversation I'd overheard last week. Noah talking to someone on the phone about trimming the fat and maximizing profit margins. He'd mentioned my salary specifically, said the company could hire 3 college graduates for what they paid me. What Noah didn't understand was that those 3 college graduates would inherit client lists, not client relationships. There's a difference between a name in a database and a man who calls you personally when his business needs help. The elevator reached the ground floor. I walked through the lobby I'd entered every morning for 16 years, carrying my box of memories. Noah thought he'd made a brilliant business decision. He had no idea what he'd just set in motion. I started at Morrison Industries straight out of college. Back then, it was a small operation run by old Tom Morrison himself. 20 employees, 2 salespeople, and a dream to compete with the big manufacturers. Tom believed in relationships. Sell to the person, not the company, he always said. When Tom retired 5 years ago, his son-in-law took over as CEO. That's when Noah joined the team. New management meant new ideas about efficiency and cost reduction. The company had grown to 300 employees, but somehow the soul of the place started disappearing. My client base wasn't built overnight. Harold Jameson at Pinnacle Construction trusted me, because I'd driven to his job site at midnight when his equipment broke down during a crucial project. Patricia Williams at Westmont Development kept Morrison on her preferred vendor list, because I remembered her daughter's graduation and sent flowers. These weren't transactions, they were relationships. Over the years, I'd noticed subtle changes in how Noah interacted with the sales team. He'd started questioning my travel expenses, asked why I needed to take clients to dinner when email communication should suffice, suggested we could handle accounts remotely instead of face-to-face meetings. The personal touch is outdated, he'd said during one team meeting. Modern business is about efficiency and digital communication. I'd tried explaining that construction executives were old-school people who preferred handshakes to email signatures, that when Patricia Williams had a $2 million project, she called me personally because she trusted my judgment. But Noah saw those dinner receipts as unnecessary expenses. The warning signs had been there for months. Noah started scheduling meetings without me, brought in a consultant to analyze sales processes, asked Jennifer to provide detailed reports on my daily activities. He was building a case. What really bothered me was how he treated the rest of the team. Kevin, who'd been with Morrison for 12 years, got passed over for promotion because Noah thought his salary was above market rate. Maria, our best account manager, lost her biggest client when Noah insisted she handle their concerns through the customer service portal instead of personal calls. The company culture was changing. Tom Morrison used to walk the floor, knew everyone's name, asked about their families. Noah managed from his corner office through spreadsheets and metrics. He measured everything except the things that actually mattered. My wife had noticed the stress. "You're different when you come home," she'd said last month, "like you're fighting a battle you can't win." She was right. I'd been fighting to preserve something Noah didn't value. Client loyalty can't be measured in quarterly reports, but it's the foundation everything else is built on. Noah was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The call came at 8 that evening. Patricia Williams from Westmont Development. "Lance, I just heard the news. Is it true?" Word traveled fast in Denver's construction industry. Morrison Industries had been my professional identity for 16 years, but apparently I was Lance Rodriguez first, Morrison employee second. "It's true, Patricia, as of this afternoon." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You built half their business relationships. What's Noah thinking?" I was sitting in my truck outside a coffee shop, still processing the day's events. "He thinks 3 interns can handle the sales department." Patricia laughed, but not with humor. "3 interns? Lance, you know my business better than I do sometimes. When we had that permit issue last year, you knew exactly which city official to call. You think some college kid is going to have those connections?" After Patricia hung up, my phone kept ringing. Harold Jameson, Frank Torres from Alpine Metalworks, David Baker from Sunset Engineering, all asking the same questions, all expressing the same concerns about Morrison's future. "I've been working with you for 12 years, Harold said. "Never had a problem. Now they're telling me some intern is going to handle my account. No thank you." The pattern became clear over the next few hours. My clients weren't just concerned about losing me as their contact. They were questioning whether Morrison Industries was still the company they'd trusted for years. If management was willing to fire their primary relationship manager without warning, what other changes were coming? By 10 p.m., I'd received calls from 14 major accounts. Not one of them expressed confidence in Morrison's decision. Several mentioned they'd be reviewing their vendor relationships. I sat in my home office that night, staring at my phone. These weren't just business contacts anymore. They were relationships I'd cultivated through years of honest service and personal attention. They trusted me, not just Morrison's products. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. Noah had made a fundamental miscalculation. He thought he was firing an expensive employee. What he'd actually done was severed the personal connections that held Morrison's client base together. I pulled out my laptop and started making a list. Every major client, their current contracts with Morrison, their renewal dates, their specific needs and preferences. The information wasn't proprietary, but it represented years of relationship building that couldn't be replicated by reading a file. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Noah's already posted your job online, says he wants fresh perspectives and cost-effective solutions. Thought you should know." I smiled for the first time since leaving Morrison's office. Noah was about to discover that fresh perspectives couldn't replace established trust, and cost-effective solutions meant nothing if your clients decided to take their business elsewhere. The game was changing, and Noah didn't even realize he was playing. I decided to stay professional. No bad-mouthing Morrison Industries, no soliciting clients, just availability for anyone who wanted to reach out. The first test came on Thursday morning. Patricia Williams called with a problem. "Lance, we've got an issue with the Morrison shipment. The specifications don't match what we ordered, and we need this resolved before our inspection tomorrow." I called the main number and they transferred me to someone named Brad. Kid sounds like he's 12 years old. "Patricia, I don't work for Morrison anymore. You'll need to—" "I know that. But Brad told me to submit a ticket through their online portal and someone would get back to me within 48 hours. We don't have 48 hours. This could shut down our entire project." I was quiet for a moment. This was exactly what I'd expected. The new system Noah was so proud of treated every client issue like a help desk ticket. "Give me 5 minutes," I said. I called Morrison's shipping department directly, talked to Gary, who'd been handling logistics for 10 years, explained the situation, had the corrected shipment dispatched within the hour. Patricia called me back that afternoon. Problem solved. Thank you. But Lance, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't have to call my former account manager to get basic service from my current vendor. By Friday, the pattern was clear. Clients were calling me because Morrison's new system wasn't working. The interns Noah had hired were competent enough, but they didn't understand the relationship side of business. They followed procedures instead of solving problems. Harold Jameson called Monday morning. Lance, I need to ask you something directly. Are you planning to join another company? I'm exploring options, Harold. Because if you are, I want you to know that Pinnacle Construction values relationships over vendor loyalty. We'd be interested in following you to whatever company appreciates your service style. That conversation changed everything. Harold wasn't just expressing frustration with Morrison. He was essentially offering to transfer his business to wherever I landed next. I started keeping track. By Wednesday, I'd received similar conversations from 8 major accounts. Not solicitation on my part, just clients expressing their preferences for future business relationships. The real surprise came Thursday afternoon. Jennifer called me from her personal phone. Lance, you need to know what's happening here. Noah's freaking out. Pinnacle Construction sent a formal letter requesting termination of their current contract. Said they're not confident in Morrison's ability to provide adequate account management. Pinnacle's been with Morrison for 12 years. That's what makes it so bad. Noah called an emergency meeting, told us we need to step up our customer retention efforts. But he still thinks the problem is our sales technique, not his management decisions. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd predicted. Noah had calculated the cost of my salary, but he'd never calculated the value of client loyalty. Those relationships couldn't be transferred like files in a computer system. Friday brought the news I'd been expecting. Alpine Metalworks submitted their contract termination notice. Sunset Engineering followed on Monday. 3 more accounts sent letters requesting meetings to discuss future business arrangements. Noah's cost-cutting measure was turning into a revenue hemorrhage. The 3 interns he'd hired to replace me were handling order processing fine, but they couldn't stop clients from walking away. They had no history with these companies, no trust, no personal connections. The irony was perfect. Noah had fired me to save money on salary expenses. Now he was losing millions in revenue because he'd destroyed the relationships that generated that revenue in the first place. My phone rang Tuesday evening. Frank Torres from Alpine Metalworks. Lance, I'll be direct. Corvus Manufacturing offered me a position as their business development director. They want someone who understands client relationships in the construction industry. I recommended you for their vice president of client relations position. Interested? I was very interested. The interview with Corvus Manufacturing revealed something I hadn't expected. They'd been planning to compete directly with Morrison Industries for months. We've been analyzing the Denver market, said CEO Rebecca Stone. Morrison has strong client relationships, but their operational efficiency has been declining. We think there's an opportunity to provide better service to their existing client base. I sat across from Rebecca in her downtown office, trying to process what she was telling me. Corvus wasn't just hiring me as a sales executive. They were building a strategy to challenge Morrison's market dominance. What changed your timeline? I asked. Rebecca smiled. Your availability. We'd planned to spend 2 years building relationships from scratch. With your client knowledge and industry connections, we could accelerate that process significantly. The offer was substantial. Vice President of Client Relations. 30% salary increase. Equity stake. Full authority to build a sales team based on relationship management rather than transactional processing. There's one condition, Rebecca said. We need to move quickly. If Morrison realizes what they've lost and tries to rehire you, this opportunity disappears. I thought about the conversations I'd had with former clients, their frustration with Morrison's new approach, their openness to alternative vendors, their specific requests to work with me personally, regardless of company affiliation. When would you want me to start? Next Monday. We've already prepared office space and support staff. We just need your decision. That evening I called Patricia Williams, not to solicit business but to get her honest assessment of Morrison's current situation. Lance, I'll be straight with you. Morrison's service has gone downhill fast. The new people don't understand our business. They're treating us like we're just another order number instead of a 12-year client relationship. Have you considered other vendors? We're always open to better service. Why do you ask? I explained my situation with Corvus. Patricia was quiet for a moment. So you're asking if we'd be willing to give Corvus a chance based on our relationship with you personally? I'm asking if good service and personal attention still matter in your vendor selection process. Lance, they matter more than you know. This construction business is built on trust and reliability. When my project manager needs something, he doesn't want to fill out a form and wait for someone to get back to him. He wants to call someone who knows our business and can solve problems immediately. I had similar conversations with 6 other clients over the next 2 days. All expressed the same sentiment. They valued relationships over vendor loyalty, service over price, problem solving over procedure following. The picture became clear. Noah hadn't just fired an expensive employee. He'd inadvertently created an opportunity for a competitor to acquire Morrison's most valuable asset, established client relationships. Friday afternoon, I called Rebecca Stone and accepted the position. Excellent. One more thing, Lance. We've done some research on Morrison's recent decisions. Your former boss has made similar cost-cutting moves in other departments, lost several long-term employees in the past 6 months. Their institutional knowledge is walking out the door. What does that mean for Corvus? It means Morrison Industries is more vulnerable than they realize. They're focused on cutting costs while their competitors are focused on providing better service. That's not a sustainable strategy. I hung up with a clear understanding of what was happening. Noah's management philosophy wasn't just affecting the sales department. It was weakening Morrison's entire competitive position, and I was about to join a company that was specifically positioned to exploit those weaknesses. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. My first day at Corvus Manufacturing started with a staff meeting. Rebecca introduced me to the team and outlined our strategic approach. Our goal isn't to undercut Morrison on price, she explained. Our goal is to provide the kind of personalized service their clients use to receive, but aren't getting anymore. The team was small, but experienced. 3 account managers who'd worked in construction industry sales, a project coordinator who understood the technical specifications our clients needed, an operations manager who prioritized problem solving over procedure following. Lance will be building relationships with potential clients based on service quality and personal attention, Rebecca continued. We're not asking anyone to abandon their current vendors. We're just offering an alternative when their current vendors stop meeting their needs. My first call was to Harold Jameson at Pinnacle Construction, not to solicit business, but to inform him of my new position. Corvus Manufacturing? I've heard good things about them. New company, but they've got solid backing and good equipment. Harold, I'm not calling to ask for your business. I just wanted you to know where I landed in case you ever need to reach me. I appreciate that, Lance. Actually, I'm glad you called. We're starting a new project in March and we're looking for vendors who can provide the kind of hands-on service we're used to. Would Corvus be interested in submitting a proposal? Within 2 weeks, I'd received similar inquiries from 4 major accounts, all companies that had worked with Morrison for years but were frustrated with the recent changes in service quality. The key was patience. I wasn't poaching clients. I was simply being available when they decided to explore alternatives. Meanwhile, Jennifer kept me informed about the situation at Morrison. Noah had hired 2 additional interns to handle the increasing workload, but client complaints were mounting. The new employees could process orders efficiently, but they couldn't manage relationships. He's still convinced the problem is training, Jennifer told me during one of our coffee meetings. Keeps talking about implementing better customer service protocols. Doesn't understand that protocols can't replace personal connections. The breakthrough came in February. Westmont Development requested proposals for their largest project of the year, a $15 million commercial complex that would require 18 months of coordinated supply chain management. Patricia Williams called me personally. Lance, we're accepting bids from 3 vendors. Morrison, obviously, since they've handled our work for years. But we're also looking at alternatives. Corvus Manufacturing interested? Absolutely. What's your timeline? Proposals due March 1st. Decision by March 15th. But Lance, I want you to know something. This isn't just about price or technical specifications. We need a vendor who understands our business and can adapt when problems arise. The kind of service you used to provide at Morrison. I spent 3 weeks preparing that proposal. Not just pricing and product specifications, but a detailed service plan that emphasized personal attention and rapid problem resolution. The kind of approach Morrison used to provide before Noah decided efficiency was more important than relationships. The day after submitting our proposal, Harold Jameson called with news that would change everything. Lance, I thought you should know. Morrison lost the Silverton project. Client said their new account management system was unresponsive and impersonal. $20 million project went to a competitor. 20 million? That's what I heard. And Lance, there's something else. Word around town is that Morrison's having cash flow problems. Lost several major accounts in the past 2 months. People are starting to wonder if they're still reliable long-term partners. The dominoes weren't just falling. They were creating an avalanche, and Noah still didn't understand what was happening. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning at 8:47 a.m. Rebecca forwarded it to me with a simple message. Thought you'd want to see this. Morrison Industries was requesting a meeting to discuss potential collaboration opportunities with Corvus Manufacturing. The sender was Noah Henderson. I read the email twice. Noah wanted to schedule a conference call to explore how Morrison and Corvus might work together to serve the Denver construction market more effectively. What do you think he wants? Rebecca asked when I called her. He's finally figured out what's happening. Morrison's lost 6 major accounts in 3 months, all of them signed with Corvus. He's desperate. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Noah, 2 Morrison executives, Rebecca and me. Noah didn't know I'd be on the call until he heard my voice. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lance Rodriguez from Corvus. Dead silence. Then Noah's voice, tight with recognition. Lance, I didn't realize you were with Corvus. Since January, I'm their vice president of client relations. The conversation that followed was exactly what I'd expected. Noah tried to frame Morrison's client losses as market fluctuations and suggested that Corvus and Morrison could avoid destructive competition by dividing the market geographically. What Morrison is really proposing, Rebecca said after letting Noah talk for 10 minutes, is that we stop providing better service so they don't have to improve theirs. That's not what I'm saying, Noah replied quickly. I'm saying there's room for both companies to succeed without client defections. Noah, I said quietly, the clients didn't defect. They chose better service. There's a difference. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. When Noah finally spoke, his voice was different, smaller. Lance, Morrison Industries would be interested in discussing your return. We've made some organizational changes that might address your previous concerns. What kind of changes? We're restructuring the sales department, more emphasis on relationship management, personal client attention, the kind of approach you pioneered at Morrison. I looked at Rebecca, who was smiling. Noah, I appreciate the offer, but I'm exactly where I want to be. The news broke 3 weeks later. Morrison Industries was laying off 40% of their workforce, including Noah Henderson. The company had lost over $30 million in contracts during the first quarter, forcing them to restructure operations and eliminate management positions. Jennifer called me that afternoon. Lance, you need to know what happened. The board met yesterday. When they reviewed the client losses, they traced everything back to your termination. Noah tried to blame market conditions, but the timing was too obvious. How did they find out? Patricia Williams. She sent a letter to the CEO explaining exactly why Westmont Development switched to Corvus, mentioned your name specifically, said Morrison's decision to fire you was the single worst business decision she'd witnessed in 20 years. The letter started an investigation. The board discovered that Morrison had lost 63% of their major accounts since January. All of them had cited poor service quality and lack of personal attention as primary factors in their vendor selection process. Noah's cost-cutting strategy had backfired completely. Instead of saving money, he'd destroyed the relationships that generated Morrison's revenue. The 3 interns he'd hired to replace me were competent, but they couldn't stop clients from walking away. That evening, I drove past Morrison's office building. Half the parking lot was empty. For lease signs were appearing in the windows. The company Tom Morrison had built over 3 decades was struggling to survive because one man had confused cost with value. I didn't feel satisfaction, just sadness for the employees who'd lost their jobs because of Noah's miscalculation. People like Jennifer, who'd done nothing wrong except work for someone who didn't understand that business relationships can't be replaced by efficiency protocols. Some lessons cost more than others. Noah had learned his the hard way. Noah Henderson's reputation in Denver's business community was destroyed within 6 months. Industry publications covered Morrison's collapse as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing short-term cost savings over long-term client relationships. His LinkedIn profile remained inactive for over a year, as he struggled to find employment with any company that valued customer retention. When he finally secured a position, it was with a small firm in another state, at a salary significantly lower than what he'd earned at Morrison. The executive who had once dismissed the value of personal relationships discovered that his own professional network had abandoned him when his decision-making proved catastrophic. Morrison Industries never recovered from the mass client exodus. The company that had once dominated Denver's construction supply market was forced to sell their assets to a competitor, with many former employees finding work at companies that prioritized relationship management over cost-cutting efficiency. The 3 interns Noah had hired to replace me were competent young professionals who deserved better leadership than they received, and most found positions at companies where their skills could develop properly under experienced mentors. I signed my employment contract with Corvus Manufacturing, surrounded by former Morrison clients who had specifically requested to work with me again, understanding that in business, as in life, trust and loyalty are earned through years of consistent service and genuine care for the people you work with. Some values can never be measured on a spreadsheet, but they ultimately determine whether a company succeeds or fails.